The Ukrainian armed forces are on the home stretch. The deoccupation of Crimea is already knocking at the door. The fiery report has begun. The peninsula is coming home. The Ukrainian armed forces are destroying all the occupiers' positions, airfields, the fleet, electronic warfare, all in ruins. The Crimean bridge has trembled. Hours of panic and an informational blackout. Pantsir didn't save them. Russia's elite equipment has come under fire. A fiery storm, wave after wave. Shock. 300 square kilometers of the south have returned home. The Ukrainian counteroffensive is crushing the enemy. Europe and Ukraine are on the field at full capacity, drones, ballistic missiles, and as a result, panic in the Kremlin. The skies over Ukraine are close to Shaheds. The air balance is shifting. I'll share all the details in just a moment. Greetings, this is Ukraine Today. I'm Victoria Panchenko, and here are the latest events. Crimea is trembling under the strikes. The defense forces have carried out a strategic rout of the occupiers' positions on the temporarily occupied peninsula. Patrol ships, enemy aircraft, and artillery assets came under fire. The occupiers' Black Sea showcase is falling apart at the seams. And that's not all. The General Staff has confirmed it. Karma has caught up with the rocket-powered machine of death, the Tornado S in the Zaporizhzhia region.
As part of a systematic effort to reduce the combat capabilities of the aggressor state, Ukraine's defense forces continue to strike at military targets and equipment of the Russian aggressor in temporarily occupied territories. That of Ukraine. In the city of Inkerman, Crimea, Ukrainian forces struck 2 Russian border patrol ships of the Okhotnik class. On the territory of the Yevpatoria aircraft repair plant, 2 B-12 aircraft were hit. These are anti-submarine amphibious aircraft.
In Crimea, the area where the missile battalion of the 15th Separate Coastal Missile Brigade of the Russian Black Sea Fleet with Bastion systems was concentrated has been destroyed. The enemy's losses and the true scale of the destruction are still being assessed. It seems the good news is just beginning. The night in Crimea turned out to be loud. Telegram channels were exploding with reports of detonations and frantic air defense activity in Kerch, Krasnoperekovsky district and Gvardeyskoye. The occupiers, in a panic, blocked traffic on the Crimean bridge. The transportation artery was paralyzed for almost 11 hours. The occupied peninsula once again felt that the war is not somewhere far away. In the Russian army, storm and chaos. The fleet was no exception. In Sevastopol, the Russian Black Sea Fleet is shamefully hiding its damaged ships under camouflage nets. In Sukarna Bay, a large landing ship of Project 775 and the BDK Tapir are moored. The superstructures are covered as if wounds under bandages. A Molnia-class missile boat is patrolling the bay. Part of the superstructure is missing, the launchers have disappeared, and almost everything from bow to stern is covered with nets. The Kremlin is trying to pass off damaged ships as combat-ready, but our eyes catch every crack. Moreover, agents of the Atesh movement among Crimean residents are recording a sharp decline in flight activity at the Saki military airfield in Novofedorivka. After a series of precise strikes by Ukraine's defense forces, the occupiers are frantically hiding equipment in fortified hangars and relocating it to other sites. This is the airfield where the 43rd Separate Naval Assault Aviation Regiment of the Russian Armed Forces is based. It is still operational but functioning at its limit and with serious restrictions. The sky over Crimea no longer belongs to the occupiers. And the cherry on top. For the first time since the start of the full-scale war, a Swedish reconnaissance aircraft is going on the hunt over the Black Sea, reports the monitoring group Krymsky Veter. According to the flight radar portal, the Korpen reconnaissance plane took off from an air base, Malmen in Sweden, and began monitoring the situation in the Crimea region. NATO is looming powerfully over the Black Sea while the temporarily occupied peninsula trembles under the strikes. The Ukrainian armed forces already have one foot in Crimea. The day before, the ghosts from the GUR turned the occupiers' million-dollar equipment into a pile of charred metal. Air defense systems, radars, boats, everything is being turned into scrap metal. High-value targets have come under fire, and this is just the beginning.
Especially valuable pieces of Russian armed forces equipment were hit. An anti-aircraft missile system, a radar station, and a combat boat. They have been destroyed. The Pantsir S-1 anti-aircraft missile and gun system. The Nebu-U radar system. The BK-16 landing craft.
Crimea was hit by the most powerful firestorm ever. The air raid alarm had the entire peninsula on edge. Polyanitsia is a real nightmare for the occupiers at night. Kamaz trucks with machine guns under tarps were rushing around the outskirts of Sevastopol. Mobile firing points were nervously scanning the sky for UAVs. In Sevastopol itself, the explosions were so loud that the windows rattled. Even civilian aviation couldn't withstand the tension. In Sochi, the airport temporarily stopped accepting and dispatching flights. The fiery attack on Sevastopol lasted more than 2.5 hours. The city shook wave after wave. The so-called head of the city, Mikhail Razvozhayev, claimed that the air defense forces and the Russian Black Sea Fleet allegedly shot down 9 UAVs. How many actually broke through and where exactly they hit, the official modestly kept silent about. Kersh heard the whistle of a missile and felt the ground tremble beneath their feet. There was a glow in the sky and panic in the air. It was also loud near the Kacha and Belbek airfields. Jankoy, Kirov-Krasnogvardeyski districts, explosions rolled wave after wave. Drones were spotted above the latter. Pantsir S-1 systems were in operation in Sevastopol. Residents of Feodosia and the area around the Saki airfield in Novo-Fedorovka also reported explosions. In Simferopol, some internet providers suddenly went dark, an informational blackout as a bonus to the night. Mobile and home internet disappeared. Moreover, the UAV forces of the Ukrainian armed forces delivered a precise strike on the radar station at the Hvardiyska airfield in Crimea. Operators from the first separate SBS center carried out the mission with middle strike systems precisely and without unnecessary noise. Each of these facilities is the nervous system of the occupying group: energy, aviation, communications. Systematic strikes on such infrastructure disrupt logistics, break command and control, and gradually disable the combat capabilities of the Russian army. In
the area of the settlement of Rozovka in the Zaporizhzhia region, operators from the Kairos unit of the 414th Separate Brigade, Magyar's Bird, struck an ammunition depot. Operators from the 1st Separate SBS Center, using middle strike systems, struck several targets. The Kirova electrical substation in occupied Luhansk, the Gvardeyski military airfield in annexed Crimea, and a data center in Primorsk.
Ukraine's southern onslaught intensifies. 300 square kilometers are reclaimed. Step by step, Ukrainian forces push toward victory. The counteroffensive gains momentum. The enemy is being cornered. All the details are coming up in the report.
The Ukrainian air assault forces have officially launched an offensive. A corresponding statement was published yesterday by the Air Assault Forces Command. In essence, the General Staff dispelled rumors and made an open declaration. Ukraine is moving forward. The main objective for the units is to disrupt the occupiers' plans to advance in the Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhzhia regions, as well as to defeat the enemy grouping and push them beyond the borders of Dnipropetrovsk region.
We can truly say today that the counter-attacking activity of the Ukrainian Defense Forces is happening now, in the Hulyapol direction, in the Stepnohirsk direction, and not only there. It's not just the southern front, far from it. Therefore, it is clear that Ukraine is using the resources, reserves that we have, and the opportunities that have opened up, including by introducing a certain amount of chaos, such as disabling Starlink.
At the same time, a number of military analysts note that the Russian Federation is gradually recovering. In response to the breakthroughs by the Ukrainian armed forces, Moscow decided to redeploy reserves that had been prepared for the spring offensive. The occupiers are also partially trying to restore reliable communications on the front line. However, so far, neither effort has produced significant results.
There are several main reasons for the success of the Ukrainian attacks. These include the shutdown of Starlink, which resulted in the loss of stable communications for Russian troops, as well as the overall exhaustion of Putin's units in this sector of the front after prolonged continuous attacks. In addition, the Ukrainian armed forces also took advantage of the weather conditions. The same fog that had previously played into the hands of the Russian military several times.
Another crucial factor in Ukraine's success was the preparation of Russian troops on the other side of the front line, or more precisely, the almost complete lack thereof.
Well, I'll say it directly. 80% of them are untrained troops. These are people they gathered from various villages under different pretexts: mobilization, recruitment, and pressure. And accordingly, they just throw them into battle.
It is also worth noting the discussions about the liberation by the Ukrainian armed forces. The military has now officially confirmed the liberation of hundreds of square kilometers of Ukraine as well. For example, the spokesperson for the Southern Defense Forces, Vladislav Voloshin, stated that more than 300 square kilometers have already been liberated. And the advance of our fighters continues.
Ukrainian forces are counterattacking along a broad front, approximately 30 kilometers from Varvarivka to Ternovadov. If the entire stretch is cleared of infiltrated Russian soldiers, that's exactly what you get. 300 square kilometers.
The command notes that information about the advance of the Ukrainian armed forces is announced with a delay so as not to jeopardize operations, as has happened in the past. But even what has already been made public allows for cautious predictions that the successes of the defense forces will help thwart Putin's major spring offensive.
One can say about this that Ukraine, again, I am not getting ahead of myself because the security of the military operation currently underway is paramount. In my view, Ukraine has managed, at least for now, to make adjustments to the conduct of the Russian Federation's Zaporizhzhia-Orikhiv offensive operation. And here there really are three key points.
As has already been noted, alongside the advancing assault units of the Ukrainian armed forces, the drone forces are also showing excellent results, continually increasing enemy losses. And the fact that the occupiers are being forced to retreat has also debunked yet another myth of the Russian Federation. After all, people there do eventually run out.
If he had them, he would have already thrown in another 500,000 troops, which he doesn't have, in all directions. And he would have long since entered Pokrovsk.
And would have already taken Hulyai and advanced on Zaporizhzhia. But that hasn't happened. So it's not that he's hiding resources, as many people think. Why is that? It's just that there aren't any real forces ready.
The commander-in-chief, Oleksandr Syrsky, also confirmed in an interview with Le Monde that the war in Ukraine has moved out of a deadlock. According to the general staff, the front has started to move back, especially in recent days in the Hulyai and Oleksandrivka directions. Up to 50 clashes occur every day.
Meanwhile, Europe is entering the game at full speed. Together with Ukraine, it is launching a conveyor of drones and ballistic missiles. While explosions thunder deep in the occupiers' rear, it becomes clear that the Ukrainian defense industry has reached a new level that is dangerous for the Kremlin. Joint production, new aid packages, strengthening their own capabilities. All this is happening against the backdrop of growing panic among Russians, a technological breakthrough that is changing the rules of war. We will tell you in this report what exactly the partners are preparing and why it is already getting on the Kremlin's nerves. Putin wants the war to continue, so strikes on Russia persist. Russia keeps burning, and that's because Ukraine knows how to respond to aggression. Moreover, Ukraine continues to develop the very means with which it delivers retaliatory strikes. As it has become known, Ukraine, together with Germany, has developed a new drone from Quantum System. This is the RAD target drone, which was already demonstrated during the visit of the Ukrainian delegation to the first Ukrainian-German joint production facility.
A target drone is often used to test the capabilities of air defense systems, both new ones that are emerging, and to confirm the characteristics of those that already exist. They are used to conduct training exercises and to train new personnel for air defense systems. Again, beginners who are operating an anti-aircraft self-propelled unit or even a surface-to-air missile system or an anti-aircraft missile, the cannon system RPC, for some reason they have to strike, for some reason at a moving target.
The tactical and technical specifications are still being kept secret, but it is known that the drone will be launched from a catapult, and it is equipped with a jet engine that can reach speeds of up to 450 kilometers per hour. And, as experts say, most likely it will also carry a warhead, which already changes the purpose of the drone itself.
First and foremost, it is important to recognize that this is primarily a target drone. However, as has been demonstrated on numerous occasions in recent history, there have been many documented cases when these target drones were specifically outfitted with explosive warheads and could be utilized directly as a lethal strike element. Therefore, taking all these factors into account, I do not rule out the distinct possibility that the drone Red is in fact a highly versatile and multifunctional drone platform, not only as a target, for example, for domestic production in European countries, specifically Germany and so on, but it can also be effectively used to equip a high explosive warhead on it and use it to execute precision military strikes at intermediate and medium range distances. That is, this drone is intended precisely for striking the enemy's medium rear zone, either in temporarily occupied territories or on the territory of the Russian Federation. This could be 10 kilograms, 20, 30, 50, or even 100. Accordingly, any existing drone target platform could be modified for various roles. As a result, in the foreseeable future of aerial warfare, with the right technological upgrades, it could even become a sophisticated and lethal strike drone.
Ukraine continues to develop its technologies and military-industrial complex. And as has already become known, as many as 10 factories for the production of Ukrainian drones will open in Europe this year. Therefore, we will increasingly see retaliatory strikes against Russia. But it's not just about drones. On January 11th, the British authorities announced their intention to create a powerful ballistic missile specifically for Ukraine. The statement from the British government indicated that the new ballistic missile can carry a 200-kilogram warhead and has a range of 500 kilometers. And these are only the initial figures. As stated by the UK Minister for the Armed Forces, London is determined to provide Ukrainians with more weapons.
A safe Europe needs a strong Ukraine. These recently provided British long-range missiles will significantly empower Ukraine to continue their defensive struggle and will make Putin increasingly concerned.
But Nighthawk is not the only missile being prepared for delivery to Ukraine. 6 European countries are developing another new cruise missile. Germany, France, Britain, Italy, Poland, and Sweden signed the agreement for its development. According to Western sources, this project is known as OWE 500+. The price for such a missile will be below market value. Moreover, the new systems are supposed to be intelligent enough to achieve Western objectives without manual control. Who exactly? Whether Ukraine or Russia has the advantage in missiles and drones is still hard to say. But what is known is that the Kremlin clearly did not expect such resistance from the Ukrainians, even in the 4th year of the war.
Through defensive actions, we are simply exhausting the Russian occupation forces at the tactical, operational, and operational tactical levels. Although as of today, even in principle, even since 1925, the Russian Federation has not demonstrated any success at the operational tactical level, none at all. Even its offensive actions, during that summer offensive campaign, it did not clearly show that the Russian troops were truly able to succeed to cover a range of areas across Ukrainian regions that would have allowed them to break through Ukrainian defenses, cause a collapse of the defense, or achieve some other breakthroughs deep into our defensive lines. No, nothing of the sort. They advanced very slowly through forest belts, fields, and villages that had been practically reduced to ashes. Nothing on a global scale. And in principle, Ukraine now holds a dominant position as the country occupying defensive positions.
The exhaustion of the Russians is happening not only at the front, but also in the rear. After all, as we have already seen, strikes on Russia's vulnerable points continue unabated. Ukraine is maximizing both partner assistance and its own defense industry. Flamingos are already destroying the largest ammunition depots in the Russian rear. Ukrainian flamingos are also striking at training grounds, for example Kapustin Yar, from which Russia launches Oreshnik. Here's how the flamingo flies. Oil refineries and military factories are burning. The Ukrainian Sapsan missile system with ballistic missiles has entered mass production and systematic deployment. And here's the range of the Sapsan. Moreover, according to some expert assessments, Sapsan has an advantage in speed over the American ATACMS. And it can easily strike Moscow. Some sources claim that Ukraine is already using these missiles. But the information about where and how remains classified. Let's not forget about the Storm Shadow either. and HIMARS, which, according to Russian TV, are supposedly being destroyed in batches, but somehow they still keep hitting the power plants. And the Russian panic is most visible on Russian TV because even there they've started talking about how strong the Ukrainians are.
If Ukraine, just imagine for a moment, manages to hold on. After the conflict ends, if the Kiev regime remains, that means this army remains, Europe will rearm this army and Ukraine will be admitted into the European Union. Believe me, in 5 years, it won't be Germany or France running the European Union. Not some Italy, Poland, or whoever else is there. Ukraine will be the one running things there. Moreover, it will do so fully aware that this is its own Ukrainian army. If it wants, it could march across all of Europe. And no French, German, or any other army will be able to stop it.
The demilitarization that Putin so desperately wanted to achieve in Ukraine has failed spectacularly. Now, strikes on Russian territory have become more frequent and more powerful because Ukraine knows how to respond to aggression. Moreover, the Ukrainian sky is close to martyrs. It's plaguing Ukrainian cities and things are getting more and more difficult for Russians. New air defense systems and ammunition are arriving in the country. Mobile fire teams are being reformed. The effect is already noticeable. More interception, less breakthrough. The air balance is changing. Watch the fiery details right now.
This year, Ukrainian air defense will become more reliable, more precise, and most importantly, there will be much more of it. Since the beginning of February, the defense forces have started showing phenomenal results in destroying enemy aerial targets of the enemy. And above all, this concerns drones. Analysts say this is connected to the new concept from the Ministry of Defense and personally from Minister Fedorov, who is actively promoting the idea of an anti-drone dome over Ukraine.
It's an entire system of early warning and early detection in the form of radars, 3D radars. Then comes close-range detection, when information is transmitted to the detection system of the actual strike complex. For example, this could be either a missile strike complex or kinetic projectiles and ammunition.
It is worth noting that advanced radars are already operating in Ukraine, such as the Cerberus. These are capable of detecting and tracking up to 500 targets simultaneously. At the same time, during the recent Ramstein meeting, the Allies pledged to provide us with additional radars, as well as a large amount of military equipment to strengthen our air defense.
As a result of Ramstein, our partners confirmed one of the largest budgets for supporting Ukraine, $38 billion for 2026. We hope for the fastest possible delivery times.
It has also become known that Ukraine will soon receive a large batch of missiles. AIM missiles, which Ukrainian defenders use to shoot down Russian cruise missiles and jet-powered drones. This was reported yesterday by the Ministry of Defense press service. These missiles have been in service with the armed forces of Ukraine for several years. In particular, they are used from F-16 aircraft and NASAM's ground-based air defense systems.
NATO must do everything necessary. Right now, to be sure that when it comes to air defense and other weapon systems, we are doing everything possible to provide all that is within our power. By the way,
the need to increase the supply of missiles for the F-16 may also be related to another recent piece of news. According to Western journalists, it is not only Ukrainian Air Force pilots who have been flying in Ukrainian skies recently. The publication Intelligence Online, citing its sources, reports that an entire squadron of foreign pilots from the US and the Netherlands has been formed in Ukraine.
Highly skilled pilots from the international F-16 unit often conduct regular patrols across the entire region during nighttime Russian attacks, to guarantee a much more rapid and effective response to aerial threats, and to significantly maximize their overall radar detection coverage. The most significant contribution of Western veterans to Ukraine's air defense structure lies in their experience and skills in using the fighter jet's high-precision sensors, particularly the Lloyd Martin Sniper Targeting Pod. This exceptionally high-precision electro-optical infrared system is specifically designed to be utilized for long-range identification, tracking fast-moving targets with ease, and striking effectively even in the most challenging and adverse weather environments.
The Ministry of Defense has not officially confirmed this information, but they openly state that a comprehensive reform of the air defense forces is underway. For example, within the structure of unmanned systems forces, units of interceptor drones are now being actively formed, which have already improved the effectiveness of air defense. And they often help save more expensive missiles for other purposes.
The number of these drones that are flying is a problem of scaling not only the strike drones and anti-drones themselves, but it is also a matter of significantly scaling up the number of the skilled pilots themselves who are required for these operations and the comprehensive and rigorous training programs they must undergo to be ready.
Journalists have also learned that, as part of the Ramstein agreements, additional Norwegian air defense systems are to be supplied to the armament of small fire groups, NASAMs for those very AM missiles, and similar equipment from other partners.
Short-range systems. These are usually either wheeled or tracked vehicles to which some systems have been attached. They look around, observe, and can move. Some of them can even fire while doing so, but these are things that can move quickly.
Even though the strengthening of Ukrainian air defense is ongoing, analysts note that it is in 2026 when our defenders of the sky will demonstrate truly unprecedented results. For example, on the night of February 17th, when 20 out of 20 Kh-101 missiles, 4 out of 4 Iskander missiles, and more than 360 drones were destroyed.
And what do you think about the latest events? We look forward to your comments. There's more to come. Stay informed about the main news and don't forget to like. Wishing you peaceful skies overhead.